Hey everyone, Kelly Mahler, occupational therapist, and we're wrapping up the month that we just covered the topic of interoception and mental health. We got so many really great questions from the community, so I wanted to take the time to answer a few of those questions. I'm not going to be able to get to all of them, so if I don't get to your question, please feel free to post it in our Facebook group, Interoception, the Eighth Sensory System, and there's a whole community of people there that are really generous and willing to brainstorm answers with you. This advice that I'm about to, or the answers I'm about to give, it does not replace the advice of a mental health or a medical provider. I'm just going to kind of free flow with some of my thoughts. Some of these questions I haven't even read ahead of time, so I'm just going to read the list of questions. Lots of them here, pages of them, so we're just going to randomly pick some questions and answer them. So let's see here. Okay, so the first question is from Heather, and she's saying, are there emerging trends with connections noted between interoception and specific mental health diagnoses? Like understanding the connection between interoception and very specific diagnoses will transform care for mental health supports in the long run. As we know more. So Heather, to answer your question, yes, there are like some really interesting studies coming out that look at interoception specifically related to certain diagnoses. So for example, interoception and schizophrenia. We just posted a brand new article that just came off hot off the press in our social media. We also this month posted an article about interoception and OCD and tic disorders. So my best advice to you is if you're really interested in a specific diagnosis to go to Google Scholar and to just type in interoception and then insert whatever diagnosis, because there is a lot of studies coming out. In fact, there's like over 5,000 studies in the interoception field, and it's rapidly growing every day. Okay, so Melissa's asking, you are currently running a group at an inpatient psychiatric hospital for interoception, and you often have clients who decline participating, saying, oh, I don't want to do that, or that's under lock and key, I'm good, even though I'm pretty sure that improving interoceptive awareness would really help them with emotional and behavioral regulation. I want to respect their current level of readiness for change, but also want to find a way to help them see the benefit and tap in. That's a really tricky scenario because there are so many people that are disconnected from their bodies for very good reasons. Like, let's just speak to the fact that society in general doesn't honor body listening. We are conditioned to ignore our body, to keep it under lock and key, I think is one of your quotes here in the question. And then you add in trauma, or you add in maybe neurodivergence or mental health differences, and it's a messy thing to work on interoception. So I love the way that you are validating their right to refuse, because that is actually them listening to their body. Like, that feels really uncomfortable to me. I'm curious, like, what kinds of things you've been trying in your groups. Like, sometimes when we don't even mention emotion words at first, that opens a window for us. So we might just be doing like an exercise group or a dance group or some kind of like task-oriented group, and then you can embed the interoception in that way and just focus on how do your hands feel while you're doing this, or how does your heart feel while you're doing jumping jacks. So you can kind of embed interoception into a task-oriented group. Sometimes that when people are engaged in an activity, and we can just lightly invite some body connection, that might be a window in. It's going to be so different for each one of your patients, most likely, and how you can invite them safely into their body. And some people just might not be ready for it. You might have to just go back to really that co-regulation, that building relationships. And even like in the midst of like maybe working on like some sensory regulation, you could embed interoception into that work too, and just like notice how each strategy changes the way your body feels. So it's not like super targeted, like come to my group and we're going to definitely connect to our body. Let's put a task or an activity in front of us. And then we can embed interoception into that task and see if maybe that helps people feel a little bit safer. Margaret's asking about interoception in autistic children. I would be so glad to hear your views. So we use the interoception curriculum quite a bit with my autistic clients. Some of them are children, some of them are adults, and many of them really benefit greatly from learning more about their body, from learning about how their body uniquely feels in the world, what their body uniquely needs to feel safe, to feel regulated. Many autistic people have their inner experiences invalidated on a daily basis, many times accidentally from people that don't realize they're doing it. So to help them reconnect to their bodies, to really learn about what their body needs to feel safe in many times the world around them that is not set up to honor their neurotype, can be a really powerful exploration. Okay, so this is an SLP asking, what can an SLP do to support kids that don't necessarily want to be supported in the area of interoception? Any questions or suggestions I ask about emotions or mental health or emotional needs is usually met with shrugging, deflecting. And so this is a great question. And it kind of relates to the first question I asked. Like, this work is hard. To connect to your body, to notice how your body feels is so foreign to so many of us and can feel downright terrifying, especially if you add in trauma or a chronically painful body or a chronically dysregulated body. Just gentleness is really key here. You're mentioning things about emotions and mental health and emotional needs. So what I have found very helpful about interoception work, especially if you use the interoception curriculum, is we don't even talk about emotion words for the first 15 lessons. Like, it is all about noticing how different body parts feel in playful ways. So noticing how your hands feel or your feet feel, your nose feels or your heart feels or your stomach feels. So there's no emotion words around. So that can be really helpful for some of my clients that are going to just shut down if they hear one more emotion word. Many times, I don't know if the person you're asking about or the clients you're asking about are neurodivergent, but also emotion words might have little meaning to their experience in the world. We're learning so much from the community talking about how they might not translate their inner experience into an emotion word. That's not a meaningful match for their experience. So how do we help them translate their inner experience in a way that is natural and authentic to their experience? So that can be such a variety of things, whether it's like energy levels, or it can be colors or shapes or textures, or weather systems or animals, like whatever it is really very personal. So the other thing I wanted to mention here is like just to honor the hesitation in this work, to model your own experiences on the fly, to talk about how hard this is if it's hard for you, to model when you're not sure how you're feeling, and really being very clear, like just how hard this work can be. And then I also love to do this work in groups for many of my clients, not all of them, but many of them, because if they are feeling a little unsettled or a little hesitant about participating, they can just sit back and kind of watch. And many times that helps them, kind of reassures them, sees what this interoception work is all about. It also lets me have some time to like really show them concretely that there is no such thing as a wrong interoception experience, even if you don't know how your body feels, because that's a genuine experience to not know. but they can see other people in the group doing the experiments, sharing how their body is feeling. We make a really big deal out of the fact that we are all different and everyone's sharing different experiences. So that kind of brings sometimes that anxiety down or that worry down that they're not going to give the right answer, because a lot of my clients are seeking that right answer. Like, what is the right answer here? So another person is asking, how do you evaluate or collect data when when you're working with a person around interoception? Since little is known about the developmental trajectory of interoception and every person's own personal interpretation of body sensations is unique, how do you measure or document progress? That's a fantastic question. I love everything that you said in there. Like, it is really hard because, there's no such thing like really as like an average or a typical interoception experience. So how do you measure progress? How do you know when someone is making gains in this area? Like, I really just try to think about like, what is the point of the interoception work for each person? Like, why do they want to learn more about their body? Why do we think it might be helpful for them to learn more about their body? Like, what's the end goal? Is it improved toileting? Is it they're improving their knowledge about their body so that they can emotionally regulate it? Maybe it's cope with anxiety or whatever the situation is for them. So I always think about the end goal and then watch to see if we are accomplishing that end goal or that we're on progress to getting to that end goal. So I really try to always hold the functional target of like, why are we doing this work to begin with? And I use that to measure progress. Okay, let's go on. Next page here. Okay, so Julie's asking, I am writing with a question on how interoception training or noticing how our emotions live in our body can support teens who are described as having rapid negative reactivity, where it seems years of DBT and CBT training and knowledge do not get used in the moment. We hear this so many times, so often. Like, like I have clients that can memorize all of these like cognitive based programs, or they can memorize coping skills people are teaching them. And then for them to be able to use them in the moment is really hard, because you have to think about that from an interoception lens, right? Like, how do we know when it's time to use a coping strategy or to use one of these skills that we're gaining? That information comes from our body. Like, many of us get a clue coming from our body that something is off, and that's like, uh-oh, like something's going on in my body. Like, now what do I need to do about it? And so interoception many times is kind of like the precursor to more cognitive based approaches. We have to understand our body in order to take care of our body. We have to understand our body in order to know how our body is feeling or know what emotion we're experiencing. And also, I would want to point out, interoception also helps us obviously understand our body more, which also helps us to get closer to those coping skills or those regulation strategies that are a match for our body. Otherwise, it's us memorizing coping strategies that other people think are a good idea. Other people are telling us that we should use. Whereas in interoception, like in the interoception curriculum, the third section of the curriculum is called action, and that's exploring a whole lot of different regulating activities or feel-good activities and determining which of those activities is a match for your unique body. So it's not really memorizing what other people think are a good idea. It's exploring and figuring out what uniquely works for your body. And it's going to be so different for everyone. Like, deep breathing does not work for everyone. I have a client that he looks around the room and counts all of the square or rectangle shapes in the room. I would have never taught that as a coping skill, but that's something that's so highly helpful and valuable to his body. And it's been a really powerful way for him to be able to regulate his anxiety. And so really understanding your body is the foundation of all of that. Okay. Let's see here. Cam's asking, here's a question for you. What might you suggest to someone experiencing really strong affective empathy to help separate their own feelings from the other person's interoceptive point of view. Can we hear this from so many people? Many times it's neurodivergent people where they are so highly in tune with the feelings of others. This also can be a trauma response too, to be hyper vigilant on other people in the environment to protect yourself, right? And so this is so common for many different people. And I think it's so ironic that we claim that many neurodivergent people have reduced empathy, which is, if you know or love someone that's neurodivergent, you know that's the furthest thing from the truth. And in fact, it's many times the opposite. As you are asking in this question, it is, you're so overly in tune that it can almost be derailing to your own experience. You don't know where your emotions and your interoceptive sensations start and stop, because I've heard from some of my clients, they kind of just like all meld together with another person's inner experience and your inner experience. So doing interoception work in an environment where you feel safe and you're potentially, maybe you're alone doing this work, or maybe you're with a really trusted person and you're exploring your own bodily experience. Many of my clients start to be able to separate what their body is feeling versus what another person's body is feeling. So that interoception work can be really, really helpful in that experience. Okay, so Alana's asking, I have found that a lot of my kids struggle to identify when changes happen in their bodies, even when doing the experiments from the curriculum. They often say there is no change, or they may respond what they think is the right answer. I try to be creative in finding ways to help them understand, but I'm looking for more ideas. Super common. So there's a couple things that could be going on here. So first of all, they might honestly just not be noticing the change in their body. So I try to think about fun activities that'll just like be more intense, like more intense changes in the body. I can't guarantee that it's always going to be an intense change in a person's body, but I try to think, okay, like what is an experiment right now that like might evoke a super intense sensation in the body in a safe, playful way. So like maybe you need to get like star jumps out and like really get that body like moving and get that heart rate up and get those muscles going, and see if you can capture any changes in that way. See if they notice anything about their body when that's happening. Another thing you mentioned is them on a quest for the right answer. And this is so common. I see this a lot of times in my clients, that they are trying an experiment and they want to give me the right answer. And that's from years of lived experience of being conditioned that there's certain ways your body should feel. Like, so anger is when your fists are tight and your skin is hot. And if that doesn't match your experience, you start to doubt yourself that your inner experience is probably wrong. Or maybe you've had years of people labeling your emotions. Oh gosh, you look like you're frustrated right now, when that's not a match for your inner experience. And again, you start to doubt yourself. You feel like your experience is wrong. You're just on this quest to please other people, to give the right answer so that you can fly under the radar kind of thing. Also in compliance models, they condition people to ignore their body. The compliance approaches condition people that there's only like a right way to feel, like, and if you are dysregulated, that is not a right way to feel, right? So if your state is in a state of chronic dysregulation, you're going to learn that your internal experience is wrong, that you need to try your best to mask it, to suppress it, to not share it with anyone, because if you express that body feel, it will not earn you a reinforcer, or it'll get you put into a break space, and you can't get out of that space until you show that you don't feel that way anymore. So there's so much you are overriding here. And we talk about how interoception work many times is undoing before doing. So continue your work, continue validating, even if they're telling you they don't know how how their body feels, validate that experience. If you can, maybe put them together with maybe one or two other people, or use yourself to get modeling of different experiences so that they can concretely see that there is no wrong way to feel, that we are all so very different. If you don't have the luxury of adding other people into the work, then model your own experience, but make sure that you're doing it in a way that's like, oh, like my hands feel cold right now, but I wonder if it's same or different for you. Or sometimes I'll even bring in other people that can be, so I might be like, oh, when I was doing this experiment last week in a classroom, one kid said his hands felt tingly, and one said his hands felt blue, and one said his hands felt cold. So I'm still getting the fact that there are all different types of experiences out there, and I think that's a really important thing. All right, that's it for now. Again, if I didn't get to your question, please feel free to put it in our Facebook group, Interoception, the Eighth Sensory System. And I feel like we need to have this conversation again about interoception and mental health. We had so many great questions, great conversations in our social media communities. So until next time.